Okay, good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folare and my guest this morning is my dear friend, Dr. Austin Weze.
Good morning, Yori.
Thank you very much, Austin. Yeah. He lectures at Pan-Atlantic University. The polity is just full of all sorts of vibrant stories. You know, it's all going on. The Obasanjo letter, the aftermath hasn't died down. The IBB letter on top of that, going into the administration's efforts to, clean up as a bit. We all know this anti-corruption drive. Metu arrives obeying the court on a stretcher. So the whole thing looks like, quite frankly, a very, very interesting sort of drama. Yet, it is our real life, and our futures depend on this thing that is taking a much more dramatic overtone than sort of serious getting down to business and working the problems with as little distraction as possible. Now, here we are 180 million strong, the largest country in Africa. They say 1 in 4 black people, did they say, is a Nigerian and all of that. Yes. What is the problem, if that is the case, with leadership across Africa? Because these situations that we're having, Africa is watching, just like we watch what's going on. Yeah. We see how in Kenya the other day, the opposition leader went and swore himself in a 5-minute ceremony and disappeared. There are all of these things going on. Obasanjo, IBB, they're saying they're dissatisfied. What do you think Africa is making of all of this, since they tend to look towards Nigeria to see what's going on, how stable are we, what's the economy saying, what's the political situation saying, what's the security situation saying, all coming from Nigeria? Is there a problem of, I don't know if it's a problem, shall we say challenge of leadership in Africa?
Yeah, there's a big challenge of leadership. In fact, crisis of values in leadership.
But the whole Mo Ibrahim Foundation thing.
How many people have won it? How many people?
And in fact, there was a year they skipped.
Yeah.
They skipped that, look, we haven't found anybody
even years.
Worthy.
Even years. But again, the challenge of leadership in Africa, which led to the crisis of values in leadership, they didn't just start today. We have to go back to say, how did we get here? If you go back to colonial days and the preparations to hand over and all that, all across Africa, even the recent one in South Africa, nobody was prepared. Even some people are saying that it was a huge mistake to hand over South Africa to Nelson Mandela, because he came out of prison, he didn't go through the process of governance training, to
development,
prepare him.
experience.
Yes. No African leader from independence was trained on how to, really. But Europeans and all that, they have a process of selecting people. Yeah, but their whole system is sophisticated.
Oh, okay.
South Africa, for instance, in their companies now, they have over 200 years of management experience.
Okay.
So, but in leadership, handing over and, this situation we find in Africa, Nigeria is a problem.
How about the, African leaders among themselves? And here, quite frankly, former President Obasanjo features in many of these global groupings. They even at one time had an African peer review mechanism for them to meet among themselves, so that no matter the veracity of the matters that you state regarding how all of this started. Yeah, all of that's now a matter of historical record. But in modern times, these guys get together, or are supposed to get together. That whole peer review mechanism, it hasn't contributed to the problem?
Well,
to the solution?
Yeah, well, it hasn't really, because it depends on the vested interests of each of those countries and leaders. It's all about vested interests.
Just like Trump said, America first. My total absolute interest is America first.
But he said that, for the fact that he said America first, doesn't mean that America will go it alone.
No, yeah, that point is being made.
Yes.
Yeah, but he's saying that, I'm sure Trump is saying that without prejudice to that, it's been too long his beloved dear America has been left out in the cold.
Yes.
Bad deals, etc., etc. Now, he has his own way, and not everybody even agrees with him or his methodologies. But it's something of this kind of thing you were talking about, where all these African leaders especially have their own individual,
vested interests.
Vested interests.
No matter what you do. And they're all looking up to Nigeria to stand up, to lead Africa.
Isn't that why we have a certain responsibility? And I don't know what our former leaders are doing vis-a-vis the conversation they're generating. Right now, for instance, I was surprised to see that the Inspector General has declared the person who brought the news of IBB's criticism, they've declared him wanted now. Because, according to the police, he was, they're accusing him of character defamation and other sorts of things. I mean, talk about a play, a political play, a political drama going on. February
has always positioned himself as spokesperson for Babangida.
That's right. He's well known in that regard.
They go way back. Whether Babangida is aware of it, or officially, or not, that's what I don't
yeah, but Afebua himself was speaking the other day on television. It was on channels. It was the political program on channels. I think it was on Sunday. I saw him, the video that they put out, where he was saying that his statement was coming from IBB.
Yes.
And he said there seemed to be one that was inaccurate, but his statement was coming from IBB. And so you can take it that is IBB's perspective. To now hear the police saying that the man is wanted, first of all, who sent police? Did IBB complain to the police?
No.
I mean,
because one is that's invested,
so what's going on?
That's the vested interest I talk about. These guys, you want this guy arrested, they are also trying to protect their jobs. Because if once the end of administration, if they don't do 8 years, some people will not be happy to lose their jobs, okay? If a new government comes in, for instance, the IG definitely will go. Definitely. so he has to do everything, whether they send him or not. He must protect his own interests.
To what extent, Austin, you being a scholar and looking at Africa generally, to what extent do you think personally that our system and systems here are different from what obtains in Africa generally? Is there any particular place you'd like to single out and say, perhaps Mwalimu's Tanzania, Nyerere and all of that? I don't know, any place that you think is sort of noteworthy that if only all of Africa could be this?
One place that comes to mind is Botswana.
Oh, well, they do have a different kind of size advantage.
Yes. And
small. Sometimes small is beautiful.
Yes. And again, Rwanda.
Okay.
Based on the experience, the war, 1994, genocide in Rwanda, and then it takes the spirit of forgiveness to really what is happening in Rwanda today to happen. Because the leadership did not just forgive. The citizens also have forgiven.
Exactly.
And without forgiveness, you can make progress.
And this has led, I would guess, Austin, to a certain kind of a psyche in all Rwandan nationals.
Yes, there's a new psyche.
There's a unifying spirit.
Exactly.
And that's what Obasanjo and others have called for. But they call it, what Nigeria needs is, some have called it a spiritual rebirth, some have called it a mental rebirth. In other words, something to affect us all uniformly.
Yes.
And all of us in agreement.
That's right.
That there has been a shift.
Yes.
Do you think we have that shift in Nigeria?
Of course.
Do you think we have such a shift in Nigeria where all of us are affected mentally and saying, we rededicate ourselves in a certain kind of way, which appears to be what's going on in Rwanda?
Yeah, because one is that it has to come from the honest leadership. Once it comes from, like Paul Kagame has shown the people that, hey,
And he led the way.
He led the way. He led the way. And that is exactly the kind of thing that we need, inspirational leadership. At a time that everybody is down and things are not going the way, nobody is happy in Nigeria. Nobody is happy in Africa. It's not just Nigeria. But Africa, there's so many people. Look at Kenya, right from the days of Kenyatta, and then when he was there in the 60s and the early 70s, Kenya had some kind of one strong party and then other minor this thing. But what happened in Kenya was that the man then led an inclusive government, and not a zero-sum politics.
You're talking about Kenya?
Yeah, in Kenya.
Okay.
So
with which Kenyatta? This Kenyatta or the senior Kenyatta?
The senior Kenyatta.
Okay. Okay, the father of the current president.
Yes. And Kenya's economy grew by 13%, and that was the highest. Then America and Western nations say, well, you need to introduce a multi-party system and all that. And Kenya bowed. The man that took over, Daniel Arap Moi, now came up and said, look, when his predecessor was in power, his own tribe were eating meat.
Mm-hmm.
His own tribe were eating bone. Now that he's in power, it is the turn of his own tribe to eat meat.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other tribe, they should test how bone tastes.
Now, this metaphor
this is exactly what is going on in Africa.
In Africa, generally,
yes.
Even coming back home to Nigeria, this sentiment you've just expressed, I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't exist now.
It exists.
Say, okay, the PDP has been going all this while.
Yes.
Maybe that's the meat you were talking about.
Yeah, they were all eating meat. And now APC say, well, you test the kind of bone that we used to tell, see whether they can crack it.
But come to that, continuing with this metaphor. Continuing with this metaphor. In a place like Nigeria, don't both the ruling party and the opposition, because it is Nigeria, both of them are actually eating meat?
Well, the elite. There's elite consensus against the masses.
Now, is that a uniquely Nigerian thing, or do you think
it's a global thing.
You find it in...
It's a global...
Not even Africa this time. No. Global.
It's a global thing.
The elites come together and protect their own interests. Yes. Of course, they never say that's what's going on.
No, they don't.
No.
Because people think that America is still running democracy as they are preaching to us. But America has moved on to plutocracy. The government of the rich for the rich and all that. They see it playing out. All policies made just to protect, to preserve the wealth of the rich. Because the feeling is that, especially the Republicans, that look, we reduce tax for the rich so that the rich can build business, employ the poor. But the Democrats say no. Let's reduce because the tax burden is more on the masses, and then increase the tax to the rich. That's the only difference between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. But again, you find in Nigeria that even the masses, the elite, in public you fight yourselves, but in private you are drinking pepper soup and then enjoying your bottle of whatever you drink,
So,
and then they said, don't mind them,
But
so,
when well, George is calling in. Good morning, George.
Good morning.
Oh, thank you very much for calling in.
Yeah.
You'd like to join the conversation?
Yes.
The challenge of leadership in Africa and whether we are different in Nigeria with all that's going on in the polity from our other African brothers.
We are not different.
So there's a sense in which we can take all of what's going on, the turbulence in the polity, as sort of normal in Africa.
Yes. You see, I believe that virtually we all behave in the same way. Hello?
We can hear you.
Yeah. The only area where I disagree with Dr.
Mweze
is about Jomo Kenyatta and the son.
Okay.
You see, virtually all African leaders, from the beginning to the present generation, we have always behaved the same. You see, Jomo Kenyatta run a government of inclusiveness. Arap Moi told the same line. Arap Moi never departed from what Jomo Kenyatta did. Actually, if you look at the Kenyan position today, you will see that it is the synergy between two families that is ruling. And when I say two families, I don't mean I mean two ethnic groups coming together, understanding their situation. I'm referring to the Kikuyus and the Kalenjins.
Yes,
that is
yes,
the
yes,
Kenyatta and the Arap Moi group. That is the problem that Raila Odinga did not realize. He needed to form a coalition with possibly the lawyer at the canvas. Okay? So when you look at it that way, then you will see the reason why Odinga is always losing, right from his father up to him.
Yes, yes, yes.
Now, how could he get out of this quagmire? Unfortunately, he boycotted the second round of election. Now he is losing more support from the minorities who were gravitating towards his alliance.
Or coalition.
Yes. Now, what will play out in the next coming election in 5 years' time? Odinga had lost out completely. That is my way of looking at it.
Your own assessment. By the way, George, since I have you, the coalition that you attributed to Arap Moi, do you see any similarity between that and the coalition that former President Obasanjo is floating here?
No. Obasanjo has no political clout. So let's get that. There is no way you can compare the two.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
But Raila Odinga, like you said, he committed political suicide.
When he
He
boycotted.
yes. The second round of election. What he could have done, since he said that the system was faulty, he could say, okay, look, I volunteer with other coalitions for us to sit down and get a process right so that the Kenyan electoral process could be strengthened to avoid rigging, to avoid this kind of thing. He would have won so many people's hearts. And after 5 years, he could have been the next president. But coming this way, it's a no-no.
It has limited him.
It is no-no. He has committed political suicide. And he has lost relevance, you know. I told him, I said it on this station that, look, during that Kenya's distance, that what he needed, Raila Odinga needed to do was to be the chief electoral officer for improvement, you know, to improve the Kenyan electoral process, okay? So that is just how he missed it.
Okay, well, now Mr. George, George followed by George. Okay, this George is from Ikeja. Mr. George, good morning.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
And good morning to Doctor.
Morning.
Uncle Yori, the issue of leadership, you know, I've always said that leadership is about service. Unfortunately, people who are leading us in Africa or in Nigeria, to be specific, are not yet after service. They are after sharing. That's why we are getting all these results that are coming out. The average one in Europe, or from the people we borrowed democracy from, they have elevated democracy to service. When somebody is elected, for example, he is there to serve the interests of the people, not his own interest. But here, it is self-interest. The leaders are really not thinking about the people that they are there to serve, but about their own personal interest. That is what makes the difference.
But
you can see that.
But, Mr. George, that might be your assessment, but when they themselves speak to us directly, former President Obasanjo, for example, he stresses the theme of love for Nigeria. And sometimes you have to administer tough love, probably is his perspective. So I'm saying that against the backdrop of your claim that these guys actually are thinking more about themselves rather than us. Not so, says IBB for yes, OBJ, even PMB.
Yes. So, okay.
They talk about loving this country.
Yes. Uncle Yori, you know, what you say is not what counts, but what you do.
Okay.
If you take what the people you mentioned, Obasanjo and IDB in particular, if you check what they do, what they claim that they are doing, is not synonymous with what they are saying. If you say that you are to serve us, all right, let me give you one example on theory. Obasanjo's $16 billion in an attempt to provide electricity for Nigerians. Where is the money and where is the electricity? Can he answer us? In the case of IDB, he ran the longest transition program in the world that never saw an end. He was the only president that was moving the capital of the country from one place to another, implementing a structural adjustment program and a transition that didn't end all at the same time in an economy that is of a third world nature. Was that for self-service or service of the people? What came out of it? What I'm saying, look at the coalition that they are talking about.
Yes.
Everything that they are saying is they want to give the impression that, yes, it is for the interest of the people. But it's for their own. You and I know that these three generals, not long ago, went to Mina to hold a meeting on how to oust Buhari. The reason being that...
Nah, Mr. George, that's a real heavy statement that you wouldn't ordinarily make.
This information is in the public domain.
That those three guys wanted to oust a legitimately elected...
It came out, former President Obasanjo said, after that meeting, he said it publicly that because the president was no longer available in the country, it was suspected that he can no longer carry out the function.
Oh, okay.
So what else do you want me to believe? So what I'm saying is that because for the first time, one person has come out to say, this corruption that is, killing this country, I want to attempt to kill it. That is why you see the reactions right and left. The mistake that could be tolerated from others or that had been tolerated from others in the past, everybody will capitalize on it and say, no, you have made a mistake because of that. But what lies behind it is that they don't want that attempt to, promote governance to service instead of sharing. That is what is going on all over Africa, and until there is, the people themselves are fed up of it, it will not end. The only way that it will end is when, right now, an average person is still looking for a way to be a beneficiary of the rot. But when the average person says, no, enough of it,
yes,
don't do it again, only then can we see the end.
And that leadership is going to have to come from Nigeria, right?
Yes.
It's not unreasonable to expect that Nigeria will lead the way.
We are supposed to, but we have not been able to take over that leadership, because when you look at the resources of this country, you compare it. I've been privileged to visit several countries of the world. I have not seen another country that is so richly endowed in terms of resources like Nigeria compared with their population. And
so relatively underdeveloped.
And yes, very underdeveloped.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. George. Really appreciate your calling in. Okay, Austin, earlier you said that, look, some sort of models, ideal models that you might look at. You included Botswana among the very, very few, the handful.
Yes.
But Botswana, as you know, they have a king.
Yes.
Saudi Arabia has a king. They're not distracted by all this democratic wahala.
Our major issue is the selection process.
Okay.
Botswana got it right. You know, we have not gotten it right because we refuse to do the fundamental things that we're supposed to do. We forget our culture. We forget everything about us, our heritage.
Okay.
And
our values.
Our values. This is the value is the glue that holds everything together. You know, that's why I said that the crisis we're having is crisis of values in leadership. Our value system has been eroded. And that's why even the millennials, the young ones these days, they want to be richer than when they work for you, they want to be richer than you. You know?
These are the very sector of society that all of them are now saying need to take a more forward position in the affairs of the country.
Exactly, but again,
OBJ wants that. He seems to be advocating youth participation.
Yeah, but again,
and women.
I'm currently, for some time now, for about a year now, I've been studying these millennials, how they consume news, how they, you know, behave, their attitude towards several things that we used to be, you know, proud of. One, they're not ready to work as hard as we did in our days, and we still do. And two, they are also not interested in so many things that we're interested in. I have them in my house, my children.
Yes.
And I tell them stuff, they will laugh and say, Daddy, old school, old school. That's not the way to go, man. You know, that kind of a thing.
But this is actuality. This is where the world is going.
Yes.
The world today is not the same as it was 50 years ago.
A study done said that our generation, the children of our generation, will be less educated and they'll be poorer.
Oh, that's quite depressing.
Yes.
But let me quickly bring in Mohammed in Kano. Good morning, Mohammed.
Hello, how are you?
Mohammed, thank you for calling in.
Okay, how are you?
Go ahead, please.
Oh, sorry, I thought I was talking to this program I do on TVC.
Yeah, you have reached TVC. Thank you very much for calling. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
How is work?
No. Do you want to contribute something, Mohammed? Mohammed? Oh, okay, maybe I should just have followed Mohammed. He's the cultural man. We're going to take the first 2 minutes to greet each other, and then the 30 seconds left, he will now try to squeeze in.
You know,
Mohammed, if you get back in, hi, just, quickly just go, because airtime is precious. We can't fritter it on greetings.
Yeah. So you find that all this...
Now, you say Botswana got it right.
Because of the selection process.
Sense of the history, their values, and then you were saying, more importantly, the process, right?
Yeah, the selection process.
The selection process.
Leadership selection process, which is the way for you to become a chief in Botswana. Is really high. You must be well known in society, must have contributed something to the community and all that. Just like in several communities where, to select a community leader in Nigeria, those days in the 50s and the 60s, and you need to have shown that you're a good person, character-wise and all that. And again, what happened? So that was how Botswana got it right. Forget about their size.
Didn't Botswana have, I don't know about Botswana at all, but thank God you've been looking at them. Doesn't Botswana have some of the issues we have to contend with, federal character, for example?
No, they have 3 tribes that actually form that Botswana.
So the federal character is a lot less complicated.
Yes, because one is that 3 tribes are 3 kings that came together to forge the unity that even called the name, Botswana. The name Botswana derived from those 3 tribes, okay? And what they did was their culture, their heritage, they imbibed it, into the political process.
So the politics, therefore, wasn't very strange to them, since it was, it has somehow been fused with their cultural values.
Yes.
I'd like to continue to this point. Gabriel in Ikoyi, good morning, and thank you very much for holding on.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you for calling in, Gabriel. Good morning.
Yeah, morning, sir. This very topic is very, very important to Africa as a continent. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Gabriel.
Okay. There is a big problem when it comes to leadership in the African system. One thing that is very paramount here is the casualty of leadership. There are two casualties I would like to mention very briefly here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, loud and clear.
Okay. So there is a casualties of principles and values. So in African system, we don't value principles and values when it comes to leadership.
Is it that we don't imbibe values, or that
Yes.
or that the values that are imbibed are not the ones that you want to be imbibed?
No,
Certainly
we
some
don't
values are at play.
Yeah, we don't imbibe that value, the value of the system, of the African system.
Okay.
Hello?
Please continue.
Hello?
Please continue. We can hear you.
Okay. So what is leadership? Or rather, give it to politics. What politics is all about? By definition, it is the authoritative allocation of resources and value. So when we play politics, we should make sure that politics is not about individual or personal value. It's about the value of the society. Now, in our society, we see politics as a personal value, that is personal interest. But I think we'll continue to have this same system of leadership until we understand that first thing, politics is about the value of the society.
Mm-hmm.
So if as a leader or as a politician, you should understand that the value of your people is very, very paramount and is the key.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once you get to that power, it is an opportunity for you to let your people feel the impact and the reality of that value.
Mm-hmm. That is the challenge before all leaders, Nigerian or African, you know.
Yeah. The point you made about...
I'm going to come back so I can take you fully.
Okay.
I've got to go to a quick break, and then I'll come back and we'll get a comment on Gabriel. Thank you for calling in, Gabriel, on Gabriel's presentation. Stay with us, please. Okay, welcome back. Looking at the challenge of leadership in Africa, it's one of those kind of captions that have been really overflogged. We've used it on all sorts of programs, continental current affairs program, global current affairs programs, but it still is true for all of that. Now, Gabriel took us up to the break, and he was talking about, again, another thing that, first of all, you've spoken about it this morning, and we speak about it constantly, what he refers to as the values of society. Yeah. That is what leaders... Now, we all have lovely, lovely, lovely cultural values. I don't believe there's any people in Nigeria where stealing is all right.
No,
none.
No.
Where dishonorable conduct is all right.
No.
But something has happened, for example, and people are stealing outrightly, without, and it's so much so that it's almost like it isn't a crime anymore.
Yes.
You go to the judiciary, I mean, we couldn't believe the stories we were hearing from there. You go to the legislature, ditto. What came out of the executive in the last administration, we all know. So this is the problem I have with understanding, well, I understood Gabriel in a classical sense, but when it comes to the practical implementation, Aha. The last time I looked, depending on how you want to go, is it Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba? That is one. If you want to extend it up to 8, you might include Kanuri, Fufude, and those kind of things. Now, how do you put all of this into a melting pot so that what you are doing is not at a dissonance with the values, the cultural imperatives of your people?
Well, the leader is supposed to stand within the nexus, so that knowing that there's some cultural differences and all that. And one man that did that is this former Prime Minister of Malaysia.
Okay.
Mahathir Mohamad. This guy was seemingly an outcast for years, 17 years or so before he came back to lead Malaysia.
Okay.
And in Malaysia, they have 3 major tribes: the Indians, the Malays, and the Chinese. But what did he do right to bring all the 3 together? By understanding the characteristics of each of these people. Our government have not taken time.
Yeah, but he had been away for, as you put it, 17 years.
Yes.
Something had happened to him.
He was banished, more or less.
Exactly. It's like the epiphany some of our leaders get when they go into jail. Something radically different shook them up.
Yes.
Maybe this is what happened to, the Malayan president you're talking about. But I just said all of that because he came back with a totally fresh perspective.
That's right. And I keep saying this, that to govern Nigeria well, you need to understand the different characteristics that make up these people that constitute Nigeria as a country, and then make policies that will allow each person, each individual, each group to express themselves, their God-given talents.
But I remember, Austin.
Yes.
IBB said this, that he understands Nigerians. OBJ has said it. He knows Nigerians, especially well-brought-up ones, well-born and well-brought-up ones. He knows them. So our leaders,
now,
in fact, one of the things you have to have, one of the qualifications you necessarily have to have, I imagine, is you must know your people. So PNB will not say he doesn't know any people in this place. He knows the peoples.
He knows the people. He might know the people, but he may see me and know me as an Igbo man, for instance. But do you know what my makeup? Do you know my aspirations? How can you make policies that will allow me to bring my this thing? Talking about so that even in an attempt to achieve my own purpose, it will benefit others. That's what Adam Smith calls the invisible hand.
Okay. Benjamin, you've really held on for enough. Thank you very much. Good morning. Good morning, Benjamin.
Can I be on?
Yes, you are on, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, Okuyori.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, it's nice talking to you, and I've been following the
conversation
debate that is going on now.
All right.
Well, my own contribution is that the fundamental problem that Nigerians have in this process, you understand, like the way Buhari said, but our president needs to control all his aides that are talking on his behalf. He needs everybody. He needs the Senate. He needs the House of Reps. He needs everybody. I watched something that is happening in the channel this morning. When a PRO of Nigerian police is saying that the Benue governor is a drone man. He should come to the national television and come and address the issue, and so that everybody will be carried along, not to come and be talking like a paymaster. Because we have to look at the future. The future of this country is supposed to be passed to the youth. But incidentally, the youth does not have a good leader to look up to. Incidentally, your guest there happens to be somebody I met in the Lagos Business School. And when you go through the Lagos Business School, you will know that the kind of leadership that we need is missing from our education background. We need to let youth know that the future of this country is in their hands. And our leaders should try as much as possible to control their age. It isn't be coming to the national television and be saying something that will be dividing us. Because we couldn't move forward now. The budget is there because somebody is not saying the right thing to the leader. And that is my comment. God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much, Benjamin.
You know, talking about this, I keep telling them, look, there's an urgent need for political communication, you know, which we started doing, and we run it in the school.
Effective
political communication. You know, it's a program that we run in the school. And how these people will know, they should know how to say words and choose their words, and, you know, so that they'll be able to, you know, will not cause mayhem. You know, it's lack of all the skills that, you know, this wahala is going on. You know,
on all sides.
On all sides.
All sides, quite
Yes.
frankly.
Oh,
you know, because on the one hand, you might say PMB is not communicating enough.
Yes.
On the other hand, you might say OBJ is over-communicating.
Yes.
You know, but the thing is, we've sort of, because this is the way we've always been, we now take this, what are we to make of it? And that is the danger.
Yes.
When we begin to be able to make of the communication that we are getting whatever we want, as opposed to the let me use the legal word for emphasis, the intendment of the communicator.
Yeah.
So I don't know, sometimes you set objectives that, look, this that I'm saying is the desired effect. I don't know if we sometimes think along those lines.
Yeah, because prior to the 2015 elections, I spoke to Lai Mohammed, I spoke to Lisametu, and I told them the need for us to run this for all elected and appointed members of those who are ruling in government, for the need for National Assembly, the need for governors, their aides, to go through this process.
Well, there's a problem, because you reminded us that one of our problems in politics in Africa, and particularly in Nigeria perhaps, is this whole matter of the method of selection.
Yes, yes.
So it depends on who you select. Sometimes some things are trainable. Some students are trainable, Austin. You know this better than me.
There's nobody that is not trainable.
Okay, so that therefore...
I can train the people that they say that are not trainable. I can train them.
Oh, okay.
You know, move them from mediocre to high performance.
It's just that it's easier perhaps when you have a more qualified and determined person.
Determined person.
But it's not an impossible job to train an unqualified person.
It is not.
Okay.
All you need to do is the self-esteem. Yes.
Do I have some? Yeah. Ayodele is waiting on the line. He's in Akure, Ondo State. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, young Fiori.
Good morning, sir.
So, as regards the issue of this corruption.
Okay, it's an aspect of it. We're looking at the leadership problem, challenge in Africa.
Yes, the leadership problem. I want to connect corruption with your discussion over there, please. All right. When we are talking about corruption, whatever is done that is abnormal, that is corruption.
Okay. At least the corruption of our values.
The looting aspect is the one that our president is taking care of now.
Okay.
So, but when we are talking about this issue, there is no leader in this country, especially in Nigeria, that could be exonerated. That is any leader that has ever come on board.
Exonerated from what, sir?
And from the issue of this corruption vis-a-vis looting.
Being culpable, right?
Yes.
In some way encouraging it.
Come on board.
Okay.
Let me.
Did that call drop? That call dropped. And then it dropped. I'm so sorry about that, but you were going to exemplify. But I guess the overall point you made was that all of these leaders that maybe from your point of view are now being holier than thou, that they're all complicit. They are actually part of the problem.
Of course.
Nowadays, it suits them to say that, look, I'm seeing where you are not playing well, I'm seeing where you're not defending well, but they themselves, what did they do to the field?
No, you see, because governance is not, it's not a small, it's a difficult thing, governance. But you need, there's a high intellectual capacity that you require.
Okay.
To really,
we're going back to this selection that you said you can train any goddamn, anybody.
Yes.
So even the bunch, the motley bunch, as some have said that we have, that's their opinion. Even that, you are saying, given the right conditions, we could actually be be exemplary.
Of course.
Okay.
You know,
so what's holding us back?
What drives you?
So what therefore is holding us back?
What is the personal value system?
We'll come back there again.
Yes, everything starts and ends with your personal value system, because that is what drives you. If your personal value system is acquisition, or your mates are riding this kind of car and all that, you know.
Okay. Okay.
So you now come and say, okay, let me slow down. And it happened in Malaysia. It happened in Singapore. What did they do? The disparity, the pay disparity between those who work in the public sector and the private sector were huge. Private sector were paying higher. What did they do? They bridged the gap. Narrowed the gap.
Narrowed the gap.
Yes. So
everybody now had a sense of belonging.
A sense of belonging.
A better sense of belonging.
Yes. You work in private sector. Maybe I work in the government. And we come from the same village. And your people are saying, when they come and you come with your big car, and I come with my bicycle, for instance. And you're making all promises to them. They will listen to you more. And what do you want me to do with my bicycle and all that? A public servant.
Well, as you said, it's a very, very, very difficult matter, difficult matter of governance. And Sunny in Ikeja, good morning. I think that was Sunny. That was Sunny. That was Sunny's response to me via the network. So sorry about that, Sunny in Ikeja.
The governance is not as easy as people think. But you require some level of intellectual capacity and, to be able to comprehend exactly what the problem is. Yeah, but then come up with solution.
Okay, that's the problem right there, because this is what our former presidents, one a military president, the other one a former president, are saying, that look, they've been there, done that, they know what this job takes, and are implying that they're not seeing very much evidence that which it takes is being applied.
Yeah, so right from 2015, I already knew how this kind of states. 2015. I already knew, before end of 2015, I already knew that this kind of situation we're going to fall into it. So I wasn't expecting anything extraordinary. And there is nothing that will change.
Until?
Yeah, the real change will begin 2019. That's when we begin to experience change.
But, you see...
Sorry, I'm confusing you.
No, you see, you've just said, you said it that mouthing change is not what it's all about. Oh. But anyway, let me not lose Lucky. Lucky in Alaba, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Okay, go ahead.
My name is Lucky from Alaba.
Thank you for calling in, Lucky. Go ahead. What's your comment? Lucky, what do you think? What do you think about the challenge of leadership in Africa, our own country included?
Yeah, we have a problem in Nigeria.
We know that now.
Problem of leadership.
Okay.
And
Lucky, don't listen to the echo. Don't listen to the echo, please. Just listen to the main audio.
President Muhammad Buhari is doing, if it is in an Arab world like Egypt, they would have thrown him out of the state.
Well, thank you for calling in, Lucky. Appreciate your call. All sorts, we take all sorts of opinion. Yeah. Thank you very much. But I want to go back. Until what? Where is this paradigm shift going to come from? Because this is exactly what the PMB administration told us before they were coming. It's not going to be business as usual. But you've also considered that it's bloody hard. They themselves, when they came, they said, look, our plan is in order, but we never knew there was this much of a mess in this table. People said to them, stop complaining, get on with it. I don't know how fair this was.
No,
after all.
You see, Yuri, there was a document, the transition document. When this administration took over, they spent time, months, prepared a document. Where is that document? If they had followed the whole thing about what they suggested, they came up with a blueprint on how to move Nigeria forward. Yes. Government is a continuum.
Yes.
You don't need to start all over again. We are not forming a new nation.
No, that's not what has been done.
You know?
They're not starting all over again.
You need to begin to
there are aspects,
improve on.
But Austin, you self know. There are aspects of the former regime that have been carried on into this regime.
Yeah, but again, what percentage of it?
Okay.
So all you need to do is make some adjustment here and there. Change the things that you cannot to stop everything and then,
okay. And that you're therefore implying that this is perhaps one of those African things where everybody wants to reboot. Yes. You don't need to do that.
Yeah, you don't need to.
Okay.
Government is a continuum. So when you come in, and then apart from the selection process in Africa, the succession planning, who do you hand over to?
Okay.
Let me give you an example. Tinubu, when he was governor of Lagos State, about 10% of cabinet were left for non-Lagosians. That's what brought people like Ben Akabueze and all that to become, my organization, we used to train the Lagos State staff. And you find the accounting, finance department, you find directors that are non-bearing Igbo names. Yes. That kind of a thing. So what they did, what Tinubu did during his own time was to kind of build a national culture. Lagos culture is supposed to be what national culture should be. When Fashola came, he continued made some changes and all that. Yes. But Ambode came, and it's a different ball game altogether. It's like he's not following he wants to build his own legacy, but legacies are not built like that.
In some aspects, yes. In some aspects, in some aspects, particular one. Yes. Okay, let me get the comments of Sadiq. Sadiq, you're our last caller in Dutse, Jigawa. Good morning.
Okay, good morning.
Thank you for calling in. Good morning.
And good morning to your guests.
Yes.
Yeah, morning.
Okay, there's something I want to clarify with Buhari. Buhari is a leader, not a politician. So him being a leader, not a politician, he will have many things to criticize to his government, not him in particular. Okay. Not him as a person in particular. Because as a leader, he has to work along with some politicians, either good or bad. So for him to take the shot from all the advices his advisors will give him, he has to be very, very careful, him being a leader. And for this country to be set on the right path, we have to have a good leader that will set the pace for the politicians to come and take on from him. So for Obasanjo and IDB accusing him, those ones we regard them to be politicians. But for him, he's a leader. So as I'm talking to you now, he's wait and see. Second term, all those that we consider being the bad ones in his government, he's going to do away with them. Simply because he has taken the road and he wants to deliver us to where he wants us to achieve. So I think we should just give him time. For those for the OPGs and the IDBs that are complaining, they have their own personal interest. And they are the ones that brought us to this exact situation we are. For example.
Okay, Sadiq, thank you very much. We've run out of time. Is why I was rushing you a bit there.
I've been studying presidential. I'm a student of presidential character.
Sure.
And one of the things that we determine whether a president will succeed or not during his administration is his worldview.
Okay.
The president's worldview. Another thing is his personal character. Those two plus other things that I don't want to mention now, that the things that determine, once you understand it, you will know whether a president, what direction he's headed. His worldview.
So worldview and personal character.
Yeah.
So you look at IBB, worldview, personal character.
Yeah.
You look at OBJ, worldview, personal character. You look at PMB, worldview, personal character. And begin to work it out from there. Well, let's leave it there. That's a fine place to leave it. Thank you very much, Austin. We've completely run out of time, but it's always fun when we do this. Dr. Austin Ware is a lecturer at the Pan Atlantic University. Thank you very much for coming on again.
My pleasure.
So that's the program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. Till then, I'm Yori Falani. Bye-bye for now.